And just like that, you guys, we have reached the end of another month. October was our most anticipated reading month of the year, and honestly, we didn't do too bad. We got to read a lot of the spooky books that were on our TBR, and we had a decent amount of books that we enjoyed, so I think it was a win.
I actually ended up completing my Goodreads reading goal. That just tells me that we haven't been doing too bad this year.
I know. I have not reached my reading goal yet, but I'm on track.
It's nice and cozy today.
It's finally cold. I don't know how many days we're gonna get of this weather, but I'm gonna enjoy it while we have it. It feels amazing outside.
It was hot yesterday, it's cold today, so we're just here in our sweaters, nice and cozy, and we're gonna go over all the books that we read in October. My first book was The Kiss Curse by Erin Sterling. I did read The Ex-Hex like 2 years ago, and I was supposed to read this one last year, but I didn't end up getting around to it. So this was the first book that I read this month, and it was so cute. It's basically just a spooky, witchy rom-com, but in this one, we had already met the main girl. She was the cousin of the main girl in the first book, so we already knew her. We knew this family, we knew the area and the scenery. It was just so fun and cozy being back in this Halloween town type of setting. It's just the perfect, quick and easy spooky read. I will say I do think I preferred the first one more. There was just something more about their romance that I liked, and this one felt a little bit more rushed to me, but it was still a good time, a fast and easy read. I did end up giving it a 3.5 stars, so a solid, spooky, witchy rom-com to read in October.
I ended up starting off the month with Kingdom of the Wicked by Carrie Maniscalco. It took me forever to finally pick up this book, but I'm glad I did because the setting really was perfect for October. In the story, we are following Amelia. She comes from a family of witches who live secretly among mortals. One day, Amelia's sister ends up dead, and she sets out to find her sister's killer and seek vengeance no matter what the cost, even if that means coming in contact with one of the princes of hell. I did absolutely love all of the food descriptions. I know a lot of people said it kind of reminded them like of a cookbook. I definitely got that feeling. It did have a nice gothic spooky atmosphere, but overall I think I just liked the story. I didn't love it. There was just a lot of inner monologues that kind of got repetitive, and I was hoping for a little more romance. I know a lot of people on my Goodreads review said that the series does get better as it goes on, and I'm sure it does, but I don't know if I'm necessarily rushing to read them anytime soon. I did like this one though. Perfect for October. I did give it a 3.25.
So I did read As Good as Dead by Holly Jackson, and I also picked up that first novella Killjoy by Holly Jackson as well. This was the last book in the A Good Girl's Guide to Murder trilogy, and honestly, it wasn't my favorite. I think I was good where I left off in the first two. This one, like you said about Kingdom of the Wicked, it was just really repetitive. I kept feeling like you've already said your struggles, let's move on from it. I don't know, it just kept coming up and I was just ready for it to be done. And that's like never how you want to feel when you're reading a book. There was just something about this specific plot that just felt really slow to me, especially with how much I loved the first two. The first book I gave 5 stars. I think my expectations for the whole series was just for it to be a complete 5-star read. But overall, I did really enjoy the series. I enjoyed Pip and Robbie. They're like some of my favorite YA characters ever, and I am gonna miss them. So that's why I did pick up that prequel of Killjoy for the series, and you kind of understand like how Pip got into investigations and like what made this whole journey start, and I really did enjoy reading that as well. It was kind of like bittersweet just to finish it and then go back to the start and see like what made this all start. I gave this one a 3.5 stars and Killjoy a 3-star.
You guys know it was my birthday month, so I had to read Birthday Girl by Penelope Douglas. I've loved every book that I've read by this author. I know that it's kind of hit or miss for everyone, but all of the Penelope Douglas books I've read have been a hit for me. I feel like this author at times writes about things that might not always be socially acceptable, and I appreciate that. This one was a huge age gap romance, and the trope was boyfriend's father, which is just insane, and I was hesitant about going into it because I wasn't sure how I was gonna feel about it. I don't normally really like age gap, but I should have known. If there's one thing that Penelope Douglas is gonna do, they're gonna give you a story, and boy did they. Always solid. I ended up giving this a 3.5. I just really liked seeing the story unfold. It was not my favorite PD book, but I did really enjoy it.
I did read my blind book of the month, which was Tell Me 3 Things by Julie Buxbaum. This was such a cute and solid YA book. I knew it was going to be that kind of like anonymous love interest. Basically, we're just following this young girl. She's moving to this new school, and somebody has decided to be her friend anonymously and like help her throughout her journey through school, but like not be her friend in person. And something about that, at first I was like, okay, wait, this is a little too YA for me, but I actually really did end up enjoying it. I did think the anonymous person was obvious of like who that love interest was gonna be, but it was still like so pure and innocent and cute and just a fun time. It actually ended up being a little bit deeper than a normal YA story, just because our main character is dealing a lot with grief, and that's like a big topic throughout the whole book, which wasn't what I was expecting, but I like really appreciated it. It was just so much fun. I gave it a 4 stars, so I highly recommend if you want just like a fast-paced, cute and innocent kind of YA love story.
I do have my blind book for the month, and it was Sharp Objects by Gillian Flynn. This was a super dark small town mystery. We're following Camille. She has a troubled past and she's now a reporter. She gets an assignment that brings her back to her hometown where girls are getting killed, and she's trying to piece together what's happening while also having to face the past that she left behind. This was my first book by this author. It was super dark and twisty, not really what I was expecting. I did like the writing. I liked that I couldn't predict the ending. However, something about this particular story I think just didn't click with me. I just didn't really feel connected with our main character. I did really like it though. I ended up giving it a 3. I just didn't love it as much as I initially thought I was going to. However, I've heard that the TV adaptation is actually better than the book, so I want to watch it and see if I think the same. It's definitely one that I will be thinking about for a while.
Next, we have The House by Christina Lauren. We did read this for a little spooky reading vlog, and it was so much fun. It definitely was unlike anything they've written and unlike anything that I thought it was going to be. It is a darker kind of paranormal romance, but it's deeper than that. So we're following our main character Delilah, and she has had a crush on Gavin for forever. But Gavin lives in the house. It's like the haunted house of the town, and Gavin and Delilah are kind of like growing their little relationship, but something about the house just doesn't want them to be together. It really was just the perfect book to read in October.
I did really enjoy it as well. Out of all of the other haunted house type books that I've read so far, this is one of the better ones. I do think it had the perfect amount of like spooky scenes to romance and mystery. I ended up really enjoying it. I gave it a 3.75.
I gave it a 4.
So up next, I read the first 2 books in the Dark Side series by Christy Cunning, aka the late C.M. Owens, and they were so good. I'm honestly not surprised because the Mind F series is one of my favorite series of all time, but I was interested to see if the writing was going to differ from her different pseudonyms, and this felt like a completely different author. I still really enjoyed it though. It was so fun. This is a darker reverse harem series, and we're following this ghost girl who kind of exists in this dark void, and the only thing keeping her tethered to the world is these 4 men. She has no idea who she is, she has no idea who they are, but she's been observing them, and she's basically just trying to figure out what happened to her and why she's attached to these 4 people. It was nothing of what I was expecting it to be, but it was somehow better. I think I've just been into like the paranormal romances lately, and this is so cool. The setting, the plot is just so interesting and pretty unique. By book 2, we already have a lot of answers, but there's still like a mystery at the core, so I can't wait to continue with the series. I'm loving it so far. I gave book 1 a 3 and then book 2 a 4. I really want to read everything that C.M. Owens ever wrote though.
Up next, we have our Literal Besties Bookclub book of the month, which was The Naturals by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. You guys were so right. I mean, I had such a fun time with this one. I actually really did love it. I love that we kind of went into it knowing absolutely nothing about it, just that it was like a YA kind of criminal minds book. I was in a huge reading slump actually before I read this, and I kind of thought the month was just going to go horribly for me, but I read this one, I really enjoyed it, and it got things going again, so it was all good. So we're following a 17-year-old girl named Cassie, and she ends up getting recruited by the FBI, and she joins the Naturals group. And basically all of these kids are really good at profiling people, or they have their own unique thing that can help the FBI crack cold cases. There was also a little love triangle, there was a found family, and I can definitely already say I'm enjoying this series more than the Inheritance games, especially with the romance. The romance just lacked something for me in the Inheritance games, and this one I'm here for it. There's 2 men, she can pick pick whichever one, and I'm here for either one she wants to pick. As for the inheritance games, I really didn't care whoever she picked because I just didn't feel that kind of connection. But this is going so good, and I'm so ready to read that second book.
Overall, just a really fun YA mystery thriller. You guys have the best picks for the book club. Make sure to join if you haven't already. We're picking our November book right now, so make sure to go on the Fable app, link in the description, and go vote for what we're gonna read for next month. This one was super fun. I love the concept. I love the execution. I said it in our reading vlog, but I love how they had a satisfying enough ending, but still had enough left unanswered that they could continue with the series. I liked it. I ended up giving it a 4.
I also gave it a 4.
So next we have all of the books we read in our most recent 24-hour readathon. So first up, I have One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig. This one is popular for a reason. I'm so glad I finally read it. For this one, I'm not going to give you a synopsis because I did go into it blind and I loved it that way. So I think that would make for the best reading experience. However, it is a fantasy romance. There's a mystery, of course, and this one is known for its unique magic systems, which I definitely agree with. This one did have me hooked from the jump. I can 100% see why it's so many people's favorite of the year. I really liked it. I gave it a 4-star, and I do want to read the sequel that just came out.
I did read The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches by Sangu Mandana, and this one was so freaking cute. I gave it a 4.5 stars. It was so cozy, so warm, so heartwarming. It seriously was like that kind of fall witchy version of The House in the Cerulean Sea, and The House in the Cerulean Sea was probably one of my favorite books early on in our reading journey. So it's so cute that I've like found a witchy kind of version of that book. There was a grumpy sunshine romance trope, a found family, a lot of magical potions. There was even a little twist in the end that I didn't see coming that was so exciting to read about. Overall, it's just like the perfect book to read in October or really anytime in the fall. 4.5.
Ooh! Up next, I have my second Carrie Maniscalco book of the month, and it was Stalking Jack the Ripper. This one takes place in 1888, and it is inspired by the Jack the Ripper murders that were happening at that time. I liked this one. I do not think I loved it. I definitely liked Kingdom of the Wicked more. I think the main reason though is because I went into this with an assumption about the book and it was just nothing of what I initially thought it was going to be. I don't know if it was because the back synopsis kind of just threw me off and I was expecting more of like a darker romance with a little bit of a mystery intertwined, and it ended up just being heavily focused on the mystery and the murders, which is fine, just not what I was expecting. I think because of that, I just never fully connected with it, and I don't do very well with graphic, like surgery type of scenes, and our main character in this is basically working as a forensic scientist, so there's a lot of like graphic, gruesome type of scenes, and I had to skim a lot of them, so I think that was another thing I just didn't love about it, but that's just my personal taste. I will say though, the gothic settings that this author can create, it was perfect for this month. It was definitely very spooky, very eerie. Overall, I liked it. I gave it a 3-star. It just wasn't my favorite of the month.
Next in the reading vlog, I did read Cemetery Boys by Aiden Thomas, and I actually loved this one so much. Like, I'm still thinking about it. I do go into a lot more detail in the reading vlog, but just something about the setting and the main characters in this just made for such a comfort read, and I really wasn't expecting that. It definitely was the kind of book that just plays effortlessly like a movie in your head. I definitely had like a roller coaster of emotions, and I was a crying mess at the end of it. It was just such a cute YA kind of spooky paranormal story, and I do know one of the main characters, Julian, he's getting his point of view book next year, and I will definitely be reading that. I can't wait for that. I can't believe I barely read this.
I still haven't read it.
You need to read it. I think you would like it. It was a lot of fun, especially since we're into that like kind of paranormal kind of thing. This one was perfect. I gave it a 4 stars.
The last one I had started in the readathon was The Shadows by Alex North. I finished it. I really liked it. Alex North is a 2 for 2 for me because I absolutely love The Whisper Man. This one was pretty good as well. 25 years ago, we have a young boy who committed such a heinous crime that it actually ended up inspiring a bunch of copycat murders later on. In the present, we're following 2 perspectives. One of them is Paul, who was friends with this boy back in the day. And then we're following a detective who's actually investigating one of the copycat murders currently happening. I said it in my Goodreads review, but I really enjoy how Alex North kind of has a fantasy-esque feature to his stories that make them feel really whimsical and otherworldly, but then he also has like satisfying real world endings that I think it's unmatched. I don't think I've read any other author that does it quite like him, at least not yet, and I really want to read more by him. I think it just adds another layer to storytelling. I give this one a 3.75. I liked it, but I liked The Whisper Man more.
So the last 2 I read in the 24-hour reading vlog was Roxy by Neil Shusterman and Jared Shusterman, and Gallant by V.E. Schwab. Both solid books. This one we were following drugs personified, so the drugs were actual characters in the book. This was definitely an interesting and very good way to bring light to how easy it is to misuse medication and then form an addiction. There were a lot of drugs that had different nicknames that were classified as other people, and there was a lot of times where I was just kind of confused of like who or what was being represented. And I think because there was that disconnect for me, there was a lot of like deeper meanings that I wasn't understanding. The overall writing and the idea of the story was just crazy. Neil Shusterman and Jared Shusterman will always have just crazy fun concepts, and they will do it really well. I think for me, I just had that disconnect, but I know the right audience would definitely love and appreciate this. I did give this one a 3 stars. And then I have Gallant by V.E. Schwab. This was another kind of YA paranormal haunted house kind of thing. We read a lot of haunted house paranormal books this month, but as we should. This one was also very good. V.E. Schwab is the author of The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, and I also really did like that. But what I found was that with this book, I enjoyed the second half more than the first, and that's exactly how I felt with The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. The writing was so beautiful, and the story was just told so well. I think in the beginning there was a few times when things got a little bit too repetitive for me, and I was ready for things to just start to go down, and then the end was like fantastic. I even shed a few tears at the end, but overall I do think it was really good. I did give it a 3.75, and I'm ready to read more V.E. Schwab books.
Lastly, I have my current read, and it is The Taking of Jake Livingston by Ryan Douglas. I'm including this one today because we are recording this a couple days early, and I should have this one done by the end of October, but this is just the perfect way to end it. It's a fast, spooky YA book. Our main character, Jake, is a medium, so he can see ghosts. We're then introduced to Sawyer, who is a vengeful ghost who has plans for the afterlife that include Jake. So I know things are gonna go down. This one should be a really fun one, and honestly, just a great way to end out the month.
I am reading The Turn of the Key by Ruth Ware. I'm about 50 pages in, so I think I can complete it by the time October is over. It is a mystery thriller, and I am listening to the audiobook while reading it, and this audiobook is perfect. The narrator is so good. It's just making the story even better for me. So the story starts, and we're following our main character, Rowan, and she is already trying to explain and write a letter to a lawyer explaining that she did not kill this child. Like, there's no reason for her to be in jail. She wants somebody to hear her out and listen because she knows what it seems like. Like, everyone just assumes that it was her, but it wasn't her. And then we're going into her story of what has happened, but she's also like telling the story to the lawyer. So it's a lot of fun so far, and I really do think I'm gonna love it.
Yeah, that is everything we have read and are currently reading for October.
It was a good month.
It was a good month. I'm proud of us.
Me too.
This definitely wasn't everything that I had on my October TBR, but I can't even get mad because I liked a lot of these.
So we read a lot of good spooky books. I'd say it was a great month. Let us know what your most favorite read of October was. What was yours?
I really like the Dark Side series so far. I need to finish it ASAP.
Honestly, it's a tie between The Secret Society of Irregular Witches and Cemetery Boys. Both of them are just so cozy and perfect.
Reminder again to join our Literal Besties Book Club if you haven't already. That link is always in the description, and go vote for what we're gonna read in November. That's pretty much it for today though. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already, and we will see you next time.